Okay, here's my breakdown on the lockdown workout. Again, don't need any equipment for this, a little household things here and there maybe. Very first thing is the inverted plank. This is probably one of the more difficult things on this workout and maybe one of the things that needs more explanation. So I'm going to show you the hardest version, which will really work. The goal of having the inverted plank in this workout routine is going on that you don't have any equipment and you need something to challenge your lats, these muscles back here, without having a pull-up bar. So what we're going to do for this is the inverted plank. You lay on the floor, and if you've ever done a standing pullover with the cable machine like this to work your lats, well, we're just going to follow through with that movement. You're going to drive your hands through the floor, use all your posterior muscles, all the muscles on your backside, drive yourself into this plank position. Okay. Now, can you do it without your arms and use other muscles? Yes. Okay. But we want to engage the lats. Okay. Really drive them down into the ground. Now, if you can't do that, you can do a plank this way, which isn't going to work the lats as much as just the glutes, hamstrings, the erector muscles. You can do this way, which is called a tabletop. Really going to stretch your pectorals and shoulders out. It's a really good exercise. Just not going to hit the lats that much, but it's an alternative if you don't have the ability yet to lift yourself up. But even if you don't, you can just push against the floor and get an isotension on there, and that's going to help. So then we're going to do mobility on the wrists. So that can be on the floor or on a wall. Put your wrists like this and lean into it. Just work through each range of motion. So go forward, go backwards, go side to side, do rotational. Just each way you can think of, each set, do something a little different. Work that mobility, because what we're going to do next is going to be a handstand hold or handstand press. So the press is the hardest, obviously. Starting from a headstand is really difficult because you don't already have some tension built up in there. So press from a headstand is the hardest to start with, or you can kick up holding a handstand, go down into a press and back up. If you can't do that, you can do a headstand, work on getting more stable. If you can't do that, you can do like a crow. So or even easier, start off with just being here and just leaning forward, putting your weight on your wrists to condition your wrists, get them used to holding your body weight. Okay, once you're able to do that, you can go up into this. Get them used to holding your body weight on your shoulders. It's still not all your body weight. And then find yourself, put some spot with a wall. Careful not to kick through the sheetrock. I'm going to do it on the vibration plate just because it's the only spot I got accessible where you can see. But you want to get about a foot away. Okay, as you get better at this, you can get closer. Your goal is to get perfectly straight up and down. But you're going to use the same leg each time so you get used to it and kick up. Use the wall for balance. You can hold this for time, or you can do presses, ideally all the way down and up. Okay. The wider your hands are, the easier. The narrower your hands are, the harder. Ideally, you get to the point where you can hold that with the wall for assistance for 2 minutes. That would be your goal. Okay, so after you've done that, we're going to do the split squat. It's not a lunge, okay? It's a split squat. So while we're dropping down and challenging the muscles of this leg, we're stretching the muscles of this leg and of your hip flexors, your psoas, your quadriceps. Okay, so you want to keep your pelvis tucked. Don't let yourself roll forward. Don't let your pelvis roll forward. Keep it neutral, keep it straight up and down, keep your back straight, and stretch that out. Once that's easy, then you can increase the range of motion, okay? And continually, you're stretching this, you're working this. 10 on that side, 10 on this side. And then you're gonna do some sort of hip mobility. Remember, these are challenging exercises, so you're gonna take 2 to 3 minutes of break in between each set if you need to. You can go less, but definitely mobility work in between, so you're not just grabbing your phone and texting or doing something. You're accomplishing something while you're catching your breath. So hip mobility could be standing, working through ranges of motion, writing, making squares, doing things to challenge the stability, making those muscles work. Could be doing pigeon stretch on the floor. Thing is with the pigeon stretch is while you're learning to do it, it's a bit of tension and weight bearing, but once you're able to fully accomplish it and you're actually seated on the floor, then it's more of a relaxing exercise, and we don't want to do that in between asking the muscles to do something. So just keep looking for different ways to add the mobility in with the hips. Another good one standing is to do this. So we're continuing to stretch that muscle there. We're not tucking the pelvis. We're not pulling the hip or the foot out to the side. We're keeping it straight, keeping this tight, and you're not passively pulling on this. You're trying to push your foot like this through your hand so that you're activating those muscles. And you should feel it from your iliac up here all the way down to your knee. You should feel that stretching out. So after you've done that, then we're gonna do heel raises. You can either do them off of something if you have that option, right? Or just on the floor. And when these get easy, then you can go to one-legged, challenge that balance, make those muscles work more. If you have to touch something for balance, okay, but work away from that so that you're making your feet and your ankles have to work. Straight ahead, out, and in. And the in one is usually the hardest to keep your balance, and your hips are tight usually, so trying to roll your trochanters in is difficult for a lot of people. So challenge that range of motion while you're doing your heel raises, and try to keep your hands on your hips and make yourself use your feet to balance you. Then we're gonna do foot mobility. So that could be a yoga block or a half round like this, and doing anything from standing on it, stepping forward, and doing some more heel raises, right? We don't want to do anything passive in between exercises. So you don't want to just stand here and stretch it. You want to push against that, get more blood in those connective tissues and challenge them. Or you may kneel on it. Stretch out everything on the front of your legs and the top of your feet. Barely ever see anybody ever do this one, but this could correct a lot of feet and knee pains. Another option would be to just do ankle rolls. Just standing in place, roll your ankles around, build that mobility up, putting your fingers through your toes. You should be able to spread your toes just like you do your fingers, and you should be able to get your fingers in between your toes. And if you can do that, then you squeeze your toes against your finger and vice versa, and work that dexterity of your toes so that when you're walking, your toes can spread out and grab you like your hands do when you fall. When you fall, you don't cup your hand together like this to catch yourself. You spread your fingers out. So your feet want to do the same thing, but they've been stuck in shoes for so long they can't do it. So work that toe mobility and dexterity too. Then the final two exercises are probably the most brutal, and they are a weight bearing, strengthening, and mobility in one shot. So that's why you're not going to see, you don't see mobility labeled in between there. So the side bends, you're going to raise your hands up. This would be the most difficult, the most resistance. Hands down here would be the most assistance to help you. And you're going to keep that posture good, and you're going to just go to the side. Now, if your muscles are tight, you're going to have the tendency to want to twist or move to get away from that stuck range of motion. Make sure you don't do that. If anything, if you're bending like to the left, you want to look to the right and look up. Because if you're going to the left, you're going to want to do this. You want to keep that all in the one plane. Now as you get stronger, you go over and just hold, nice and slow, come back up, do the other side. You can either do this for repetitions or just do it for holds. And then the rope-a-dope is the hardest. So it's Muhammad Ali was famous for getting against the ropes. I don't know where my head gets cut off in the frame here, and I filmed this once already and was only from like the chin down, so I keep stepping back because I'm trying to make sure I'm in frame, and if I'm out of frame a few times, deal with it. So, all right, now that I'm done ranting. He would lean against the ropes while his opponents were coming at him, right? So it was called the rope-a-dope. So you're going to stand, good posture, lock everything in, push your hips forward, come back, lean back, and stay here. If your back can take it, it's a lot of pressure and hyperextension on your low back, which is a good range of motion to be able to do, but if you have a bad back, you're not going to do it under load. You need to do something different. So use your judgment on this, okay? Don't do something stupid and hurt yourself, or don't just do something because I told you to. So you're going to lean back, and then you're going to go side to side. If you can, work some motion in that. If you put your hands out, it's a little bit easier. It's a little bit less resistance or load. You can counterbalance. Also, you can do it with a wall. You can put your head against the wall and then walk your feet out and use the wall to assist you to take some of the load, or put your hands on it and build up to it. Okay? So you're going to feel a tremendous stretch through the hip flexors, tons of load on the anterior muscles here. Challenge yourself to be able to do it while still breathing. If it's too much on your back, then on the days that you're not working out or after your workouts, in fact, I usually recommend most people end their workout with going into hyperextension stretch like this and just cooling off for a minute, because we spend all day hunched over computers, cell phones, steering wheels, couches. We hardly ever spend any time in extension with our spines. So shoulders pressed down and back, heads up, good posture, pelvis pushed into the floor. And this is how I end most of my workouts when I cool down. All right, so I hope that explanation helps. And make sure you like this video, share it, comment on it, challenge your friends, and give me some feedback. Let me know what you think, and let me know what you'd like to see next. Thank you, guys.